live. Let me tell you, the dopamine, it's flowing.
I am damn excited. Damn excited.
We are so excited to be joining you guys tonight.
Oh!
Well, how you doing, man? Patrick.
Will, Sterling.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champion, two-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Oh, he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna
score! And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast on this Tuesday. Sterling Holmes, Josh Brisco. We have news. Yeah, baby. Eric Bieniemy.
Old news.
Yeah, it's kind of old, semi-new, new to us, which means we're going to have some fun with it. Brisco, how are you?
I'm pretty good. I am resisting the urge to cannonball straight into the OC discourse, but ultimately, I'm feeling good. I'm happy to see you. I'm happy to be celebrating this Tuesday with truly news. I only mean that it's old news is in the way that it's the new boss, same as the old boss. The old boss is back, and I can see a realm of different opinions coming with Eric Bieniemy this time through.
So we are going to have fun, but before we do all of the fun, I, Sterling Holmes, broke my ankle.
What?
I broke my ankle on Sunday night. Yeah. Sorry, you're going to listen to this, and if you want to skip through the ankle story, I recommend you do that if you so choose, but if you're live, bear with me. This is going to be fun for no one, especially me, but I need to make fun of myself for this. You want to take a guess at how I broke my ankle? Take a guess.
We're both 31 now, right?
Oh, yeah.
Our bodies are the same brittle age. I'm going to guess, who was Sunday Night Football? Which one was the final playoff game of the weekend?
I don't know. I was writhing in agony.
I was going to say you were celebrating a winning bet slip, and then you slipped and broke your ankle. That's my
I watched it.
Guess.
Yeah, no, what happened was I was doing laundry.
Oh, no, Sterling. Oh, no.
I have a lot in common with Salvador Perez, which is stairs are something that are dangerous.
No.
I got injured. No, it's not the 9-time All-Stars, the World Series MVP. It's getting injured on a staircase. That's what Salvador Perez and myself have in common. So I'm doing some laundry, doing a large load. And I'm carrying it downstairs to the laundry room. And I think, okay, I'm fine. I can carry this. I'm a strong man. Well, it wasn't the strength part. It's the fact that I thought I was on the normal floor. I missed a step. I'm wearing slippers, new slippers. No. Dog, my ankle did the Dirk Nowitzki straight 90-degree angle motion. I hear a snap. Okay? No! I hear a bad noise, and I go, I'm fine, as I'm writhing in agony on the ground like a small child. And eventually I go, well, mind over matter, Sterling. You'll be okay. So I scoot my ass with the laundry to the laundry room, do my laundry as I'm immersed in pain. Because if I just do normal things, it'll go away.
Because at the moment, I'll ask, you're not thinking, I bet my ankle's broken, right?
Correct.
You didn't get your literal ankles broken on a basketball court. You didn't get run over by a car. You missed a step. And you're thinking, oh, man, this is a pretty painful sprain.
Yeah. Yeah. So, no, I went full Bonix, fractured. You never go full Bonix. Thank you, angry drunken German. Yeah, you never go full Bonix. So I have that happen. I decide, well, let's get an x-ray yesterday. Let's get an x-ray. Let's just make sure it's not broken. Okay, so I go in, I get an x-ray, I come out, the doctor goes, no, you're just extremely soft. We figured you might be a quarterback for, I don't know, like the Giants or something. No Chiefs fan would ever, not grind through a high ankle sprain. So I'm like, okay.
Begging for Toradol. Yeah.
She just handed me a roll of Charmin Ultra Soft toilet paper and said, here you go. Just wrap your leg in this and your little B word. And I go, all right, so, okay, good news. It's not broken. That's good. Well, I get home. 10 minutes after I get home, get a call. Hey, yeah, so I was wrong. You actually have 2 broken bones in your ankle.
Oh, no.
And I go, sick.
You let me walk out of here on this thing.
Well, I had crutches from 1978 that were decrepit and falling apart. Yeah, I have those. That's just a real nice treat. So I get home, I get the phone call. I'm like, okay, thanks. Well, I hang up. Well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
What do I do with this information? I'm not a doctor. I was just there to see you.
And so I'm now doing the method of my friend had a boot. I said, dude, bring your boot over. I'm going to take this thing and just throw this bad boy on, call it a day. So I have 2 weeks to get right before I'm walking in San Francisco. Noted city that's very flat, San Francisco, no hills for the Super Bowl. I have 2 weeks to get my left ankle up and running. Very painful. I'm still in a lot of pain. But I'm grinding through. So
I don't think that's not is that the end of the story?
So note to self, everyone listening, laundry's dangerous. Of all my years playing sports, basketball, ankles, they've been the pinnacle of health. Laundry by missing a step, disaster zone, painful. Bo nicks that thing. So yeah, Julie Freimeyer, if you want to help me out, that'd be lovely.
The thing I'm concerned about, Stu, and the abruptness with which this story ended is concerning to me, because usually I think after the doctor sees that there are 2 broken bones in your ankle, then they tell you, no pun intended, what the next step is. And it seems like the next step you took was, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to Mod Podge this sucker and then hope it's good in 2 weeks when I'm walking around Radio Row.
Correct.
I feel like the reason that Bo Nix's season is over isn't exactly because he broke a bone in his ankle. It's because he's having surgery to repair that. Is there a foot doctor in your future? Is there surgical talk? Did the doctor say just ice that sucker and let it heal? Are you going to be able to hoop again?
Hey, buddy, we're winging this thing.
I don't think you should. It's your foot. You got to walk on that the rest of your life. The way you live, that could be 5-10 more years.
Yeah, that's about 7 more years of I don't know. If someone has like a free foot doctor they want to send me to, like free
Doctors
would be
are
great.
never free. Our country has fundamentally failed us. You need to figure out what's wrong. My wife just said that you need to go back to the doctor.
No, it's fine.
It can't be fine. It can't be.
It'll be fine. What's the worst that happens?
You end up with chronic foot problems that follow you the rest of your life.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it'll be fine. It'll be
built
fine.
Different, I guess, is what the thing is. I'm not really worried about it because I'm built different.
Yeah, I'm built different. Sorry, I'm more like Patrick than I am Bo Nix. That wouldn't let me stop.
He got surgery when he needed it.
Yeah, it wouldn't stop my season. So we're just gonna go ahead and wing this thing. Moving on. Eric Bieniemy back is. I love our producer Joanne says I don't see this ending well. Well, sorry. Do you have? You think I'm made of money? I'm just it's just a thing.
No, but I'm Team Joanne here. It didn't start well. I don't think the middle section went well. There's no reason to believe that it would end well. You stand on. It's different. Honestly, if you were like, listen, I'm a fellow tough man. You know, people people talk and look at us and they think those are tough men.
Strong.
But I didn't even go that far. I'm just saying, I'm just taking tough. If you said that your like pinky had a break in it and you're just kind of like letting it fly and you'll figure it out later or whatever, like, okay, it's your pinky. What do you do with that anyway? You got to walk on that foot forever, hopefully. You should make sure
as long
it's
as my
okay.
golf swing's fine. Yeah, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. Mr. Ozzie Fisher says Chiefs season sucked. Mahomes and Sterling get fluke injuries. Yeah, this is just the Chiefs continuation. Basically, is this injury? This is just the cherry on top. It'll be fine. We'll be fine. Eric Bieniemy, we'll be fine. Going back to KC, he'll be fine. He'll be fine going back to the Chiefs. Chiefs are fine with Bieniemy, or are they? I want to talk more about that. I want to talk about their new wide receiver coach as well, Chad O'Shea, heading back to KC. No, not with the old Andy Reid. He was back in KC a long, long time ago. Trent Green era, basically. Brisco's head is down, but your head should be up because we are talking Gold Belly. Huh? Yeah, we're talking Gold Belly.
You don't want to leave your house and walk to get food somewhere nearby for reasons that aren't important right now?
So here's the thing. If you've not heard of Gold Belly, it's an amazing site you can order from. You get the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants all across the U.S. So maybe it's game day. Maybe it's Valentine's Day. Maybe you broke your foot and you just want to, not walk outside and try and hop in your Jeep because your Jeep's tall as bleep and it's hard to get in that thing, that sucker. Yeah, you think a lifted Jeep's a great idea until you break your ankle. But guess what? If you order from Gold Belly, you don't have to deal with that. So that's what I'm about to do is order from Gold Belly. And guess what's even better about this? If you're in KC, you know what I'm talking about, but let's say you're out of KC. Oh no, I'm in Texas. Oh no, I'm in Carolina. Oh no, I'm in California. I'm in a different state. But guess what? You can get KC barbecue right there on Gold Belly. You want Jack Stack? Baby, they got it. You want Joe's? Oh yeah. Don't even question it. Meat Mitch? Psh, come on. It is all right there on Gold Belly. You can get Chicago deep dish pizza. That's what I got. I got Luminati's. It was outstanding. The original buffalo wings from Anchor Bar in Buffalo. Real Philly cheesesteaks. And again, you can get stuff from KC straight to your door. With Valentine's Day coming up, they also have great gifts like award-winning dinners from Peter Luger Steakhouse and world-famous macaroons, as well as the exact cake served at JFK's wedding to Jackie O. This is my parents. It was great. We had a great time. We got Luminati's pizza, and it was just insanely good. You pick the date, you order it online, boom, shows up at your door. You watch Die Hard while eating famous Chicago deep dish pizza. Talk about a hell of a night. That can be your night as well. And again, whether it's game day or an unforgettable experience with friends or want to impress a loved one on Valentine's Day, go to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code Arrowhead. That's goldbelly.com, code Arrowhead for 20% off your first order.
I gotta be honest, man. I'm barely here today. My head is in a different place.
My foot's in a different place.
My head is worried about do you have the x-ray? Can we see the x-ray? Can you put that on stream sometime?
I didn't get the x-ray. I just got like the words, and the words mean nothing to me. They're like two small fractures. I'm like, okay.
2 small fractures. You're on your feet all the time.
That's fine. It's fine.
I'm sure it's fine.
It's fine.
Rub some dirt on it.
They did. They handed me dirt and said, just rub it on there. I'm like, okay, cool.
They're like, I'd like morphine. They're like,
well,
some dirt.
Speaking of that, Bieniemy, accountability and rubbing dirt on things. That's going to be a new/old thing in Kansas City. Eric Bieniemy back as the OC for KC. I think the more I've thought about it, the more I'm whelmed by it. I'm not overwhelmed. I'm not underwhelmed. I was never a big fan of bringing the band back together, but the more I think about it, the more I'm intrigued. And let me start with this thought process before we get into more of the common conversation, which is discipline, accountability, the same tropes that I feel like have become synonymous with Chiefs and Eric Bieniemy. But something I thought about that has me more intrigued about Bieniemy than I originally was, it's not just the run game that he did very well in Chicago, but just working with Ben Johnson, whose offense is vastly different than what Andy's is in Kansas City, cannot be a bad thing. I know we talked about new scheme, new ideas. I know Bieniemy is an old name, but that doesn't mean he could not bring some of what we saw with Caleb Williams, Luther Burden, the same offensive line issues that the Chiefs faced last year. Let's be real. Joe Thuney got kicked out to left tackle in yet another playoff game, and they still found ways to move the ball. I don't know. Maybe the more I've thought about it, maybe it's me talking myself into it. But I think this Ben Johnson, even if it's just a season with Ben Johnson, makes a pretty large difference in my thought of EB coming back home.
I guess I thought about this earlier. I was curious where we were going to go kind of vibes-wise here, because I really do feel like I could probably play both sides of this pretty much until the whistle blows, because I really do think that depending on what you want to be true, you can kind of talk yourself wherever you want if you think, you know, whatever, what Bieniemy does bring, what another candidate would have brought, whatever. I will say, of all the things that I have found myself less moved by over the last couple of days, it's been the Ben Johnson element. Because I've been thinking, if the Chiefs wanted, I love Ben Johnson's offense. It's his offense. Does that sound familiar to anybody? It would be like saying, I think one of the KC Lab guys been like, yeah, it'd be like saying, you know, well, Greg Lewis spent 3 years as the wide receivers coach under Andy Reid. He's ready to go install Andy Reid's offense. Like, I think there can be good tips and tricks and rules of thumb and a couple things. I'm sure Bieniemy learned stuff in Chicago, but the idea that you can just kind of like rip out a page of the playbook and bring it to Kansas City and shove it into the Chiefs playbook is just not how any of that works. I don't think Andy Reid's going to bend this offense in a Ben Johnson direction. I think if you wanted to do that, you would have hired somebody who had spent more time around another offensive mind. So I think it's fine. I think it's nice that he got that experience. And I think that it is a good, I will say this, quote Eric Bieniemy, I will say this, it is a good mark on Bieniemy's resume, to be clear. Like, I don't think he just went in there and put his head down and never spoke to anybody, never learned for anything from anywhere in the offense. And the running backs had a good season. The running game, excellent. Like that does count for something for Eric Bieniemy. My skepticism, I think, comes in on the idea of like, okay, so now what does that look like as OC of the Chiefs, or from Andy Reid's perspective? Does Andy Reid expect there to be a new wrinkle in the running game that Eric Bieniemy brings because of his time in Chicago? And I don't know that I'm willing to like expect that. I think a lot of his sort of intangible accountability stuff, you've got a real reason to believe that he's that kind of guy. That I think is super, super cut and dried, super straightforward. I think if the Chiefs really, if the selling point for a hire was going to be an offensive scheme evolution, it would have been somebody else. I think the selling point here is that it's Eric Bieniemy, and we love Eric Bieniemy, and now he's back.
Which is really funny because people did not like him, and that's why he eventually left. I just
Correct.
find we've done the same thing with Donovan Smith and Frank Clark and a lot of guys now. Frank Clark obviously had great postseason success. Donovan Smith had great postseason success. And then you gloss over maybe some of the regular season, the monetary contributions, and you look back with a fondness rather than the entire picture of what it really was. So what it comes down to for me, I don't think you're getting Nathan Scheelhaus. I love Nathan Scheelhaus. That would have been my number one choice. And I don't think he's getting that chance in Kansas City. I think he's getting either a head coaching job or an OC job that suits him with more play calling duties elsewhere. I think the same is probably said for Mike McDaniel. What it comes down to is the KC OC job is not as glorious as I think people sometimes make it out to be, because you're not the play caller. You're not the offensive creator. That is all Andy Reid. You help with a lot of those things, but you're not really the offensive coordinator outside of title, in my opinion, right? That's a little bit of what it is. So I think your pool gets dropped dramatically in that regard of not just what you want, but what other people want to come to KC and do, because it might not be the best thing for their career. I do think that when we heard Patrick talk about accountability a few times in that conversation last week, I think it was on like Friday. Whenever he spoke last, it was like Thursday or Friday.
It was Wednesday or Thursday.
Thank you. He brought up accountability.
It might
a
have been
couple times.
Friday. Sorry, I really helped. I helped a lot. It was last week sometime. Thursday.
Joanne says Thursday. He brought up accountability a couple times. And everyone kept saying, well, he said he wants new schemes and new ideas every day. And I go, yeah, but he also talked about accountability multiple times. That to me is Eric Bieniemy. Fair or not, the reality of the situation is in Kansas City, the word accountability has become synonymous with Eric Bieniemy. That's what he was known for, and it's when he left, that's what he was still brought up for. I guess for me, the more I think about it, I know you're not a big fan of the Ben Johnson aspect of this, but if accountability was the biggest issue for this team, and if we trust Andy Reid overall, since he is the OC basically, to adjust and change, then why wouldn't this work?
Why didn't it work with Matt Nagy when Eric Bieniemy went to Chicago? For
Well, if that's the accountability aspect, then that would be the details. That would be why it didn't work. Would be because those guys were not being held. Again, I think some of the talking points are a little more nuanced than this, but the accountability aspect has been brought up time and time again. That's what it feels like the complaint was with Nagy, was the accountability that was lacking when Bieniemy was there.
The reason I ask that is more than a rhetorical question is because Matt Nagy was in his second stint as Chiefs offensive coordinator. Matt Nagy was promoted from the inside as Eric Bieniemy was shuffled off to Washington. So Matt Nagy could be the new offensive coordinator. So either Matt Nagy was such a hot commodity, they had to get him to that OC job, or Bieniemy really just didn't think that this was a path to a head coaching position. So he went and spent 1 year in Washington and then 1 year at UCLA and 1 year in Chicago. I ask it that way because we could have had a very similar conversation to this one about the Chiefs hiring Matt Nagy as their offensive coordinator. And I think it's a similar deal on the it's Andy Reid's offense front, which is objectively true. It's Andy Reid's offense. And I think that's even more evident today than it was last Tuesday, because now that Eric Bieniemy is back, it is, and I don't think this is a terrible thing. I just think we should speak plainly about what's happening here. Andy Reid has hired a new assistant. Andy Reid has hired a new sidekick. There is a job to be done for offensive coordinating, even when you're not the play caller. But this is Andy Reid's offense, and if they would have hired Shieldhouse or Kingsbury, or obviously if Andy Reid would have given up play calling, which I was never expecting him to do, Mike McDaniel, whatever, then we would have said, hey, you know what? This is mostly Andy Reid's offense. No, it's Andy Reid's offense with Matt Nagy, Andy Reid's offense with Eric Bieniemy, all of that. But the other side of that just like has become tiresome to me from like a narrative standpoint is that by the way, Renee is texting me health insurance suggestions for you that I'll tell you after the show. That's the level of concern that you have drawn with your broken ankle and refusal to book a follow-up. I think that it becomes a little bit of a double-edged sword when you go, well, the thing for an offensive coordinator to do is to come in and be Andy Reid's stern right hand and set the tone and the accountability that way. That's fine, but Andy Reid chose Matt Nagy for that job twice. Eric Bieniemy comes back and people are thrilled that Matt Nagy's leaving, and now he might not get a head coaching job. He might just end up blowing in the wind right now, which is where he's at currently. The idea that Matt Nagy is sort of like a boogeyman who is to blame for the Chiefs' offensive struggles this year, I've never really bought into that. And I think that if you said straight up, who'd rather have as your OC next year, I would take Eric Bieniemy over Matt Nagy with the information that I have. But the Chiefs have done this before. They've been in this, and I'm not predicting Bieniemy's downfall in the same way that Nagy was run out of town after a few years by the fan base. That is, I just have a hard time being like, yep, just gotta trust Andy Reid. He knows what he needs in that room and all of that. When 3 years ago we were having the inverse version of this conversation.
So.
And as a comment there just mentions, anything that happens in 2026, give it to Andy Reid. Good news, bad news, offense does evolve, which, by the way, Andy Reid can evolve on his own. Andy Reid doesn't need Cliff Kingsbury to tell him there are other ways to play offense. If the offense is better next year, that's a credit to Andy Reid. If the offense is stagnant next year, that blame falls to Andy Reid. I just think that's even more underlined now with Bieniemy as the OC.
So I think it's a good point by Ronson Trey. It wasn't like EB got fired. He left to get a better chance to become a head coach. That was the thought. That was the idea. Correct.
Matt Nagy didn't get fired either, by the way. Matt Nagy left to explore head coaching interviews and potentially to call plays somewhere else. It's the same playbook.
Yeah. I just don't understand where we've come to this, to the point where Andy Reid has changed so many times in his career, And it feels like everyone is expecting him to, all of a sudden, now that he's older, he's not going to change anymore. I've been very harsh on Andy, saying it's been the exact same scheme since 2022, 2023. It's been the same stagnant, antiquated, outdated. That was fresh then. It is old now. It has been expired. You look in the fridge and you're like, why is that still in there? That is gross. Throw that out. Get something new. Okay? But he's changed. He brought in, was it Brad Childress to help run the pistol back in the day? Mm-hmm. He changed with Alex Smith. He changed when he brought in the RPOs. He's changed many, many times. The issue is folks don't want to, for good reason, waste any year of a Patrick Mahomes prime. I understand that. I'm not arguing that. But at the same time, I understand the thought process of you went to 3 straight Super Bowls. I don't want to change too much, and all of a sudden, this is a disaster. Even with the alarming downward trend that was going on over the past 3 seasons. I understand that too.
I'd let everybody know that Eric Bieniemy was eligible to be hired last year if the Chiefs wanted to make an offensive coordinator change after losing the Super Bowl. You know what? Like, this is all this accountability stuff is just very, very narrowed.
Yes, and I guess to me, I understand why they didn't change. It frustrated me, but I understood to an extent why, human nature. I think now we will. I think we will see Andy Reid change, which again goes to the point of this is Andy Reid's offense. The OC gig is not as lucrative as I think people make it out to be, which means your pool is smaller, which means you have a certain skill set that you're looking for, which in this case, I think you are looking for the accountability. You're looking for the little details. You're looking for someone who can help out in the run game. And that's what Eric Bieniemy does bring. There's no denying that he did a great job in Chicago with the run game. How much credit you want to give to Ben Johnson versus him? That's, I guess, up to the beauty of the eye of the beholder, right? That you can make that case, I guess.
You could look at Washington and UCLA also, and I think you can look at Washington and UCLA for Bieniemy, and you can look at Detroit for Ben Johnson.
And I think the run game was lovely, and that was with a 7th rounder and a guy in DeAndre Swift that Chicago fans thought was a bum. Right, I think a lot of the conversation heading into this year was DeAndre Swift is no longer good. He's washed. He's inefficient. He's bad. And then they both were outstanding this season. With, again, an offensive line that I think we would all agree is not as good as a Chiefs O-line, at least on paper. I mean, it's a good offensive line in Chicago. I've pushed back on that for a long time. I've been a huge fan of Darnell Wright, and look what happens. Oh, no, Darnell Wright is an absolute stud. Yeah, I tried telling folk. Sorry, I was annoyed with Justin Fields for so long in that first year of Caleb Williams acting like he's still in the Pac-12. Of course, he makes that play that looks like he's in the Pac-12 work.
He really did. You get a little bit of action.
But the point remains, I do think that the offensive line in Chicago was never that bad. But you saw what he could do. You need a run game philosophical change in KC, and I do think Bieniemy can bring some aspects to help that change. Whether it's Bieniemy, whether it's a healthy Pacheco, whether it was just different horses, clearly I think the run game was better when he was here than when he was gone. I don't think that's really much of a hot take.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, you get, again, trying to isolate the issues, you get a, pre-injury Pacheco versus post-injury Pacheco, and generally the talent was better and the peak players were more in their primes during the Bieniemy years than they've had over the last 3 years. But I absolutely think it's more than reasonable to expect that Bieniemy is going to be a net positive for the running game.
And so I think this is why I've grown into myself thinking this could work. The biggest issue is the run game. The biggest offensive passing issue is going to be under Andy Reid, no matter who the OC was going to be either way. So even if you bring in someone else, Andy's going to be the one making the calls. And then the third thing is the accountability or all of that. I think, yeah, he fits Bieniemy 2 of the 3. And the third one, no one was going to fix because it's Andy's offense. So I find myself more and more enthused by Bieniemy coming back because I do think he can help some of the issues that plagued the Chiefs over the past couple seasons.
I think I don't want this to sound flippant because I think that you've actually laid it out really, really well. The vacancy that the Chiefs were hiring for was a vacancy of Eric Bieniemy. That is the other thing that I would argue as like a legit gripe for me. You interviewed no one else. No one else interviewed Eric Bieniemy. Like with the information we have right now, unless there's something I've missed.
Well,
the Chiefs brought in Eric Bieniemy for an appointment, not for an interview, you know?
And we won't know. And I know Mitchell Schwartz also tweeted stuff about this, just a lot behind the scenes that we will never know. You won't know how all of the interviews go down. You won't know who all they interviewed. With the Rooney Rule, there's always going to be situations behind the scenes that we might not know.
We hear when other teams interview coordinator candidates, though. Like, that does get reported. Sure. It would be good for Nathan Shieldhouse if his agent could put out there that he interviewed for the Chiefs OC job, and so that makes him a little bit of a hotter target for the Raiders head coach job. You know what I'm like?
I don't argue that.
That is something to me that is bothersome, is that the Chiefs, the first day on January 19th was the day that Andy Reid had mentioned is starting the interview process and everything. That day, the reports were that it was a done deal with Eric Bieniemy. I would have liked to have used that time to interview some other people and see if there's anything worth hearing from anyone else. But again, I think what the Chiefs ultimately decided is that they had an Eric Bieniemy vacancy, and look at that, Eric Bieniemy was available.
I like it more than Cliff Kingsbury. You know my thoughts on that with the RPO and with running out of shotgun.
I do, but I don't. I know your Cliff takes, but I don't know. I don't think you can say that schematic redundancy is the reason that you prefer Eric Bieniemy to Cliff Kingsbury. Like, Cliff's offense is more different from Andy Reid's offense than Eric Bieniemy's offense.
Also, sorry, I know it's college, I know it's defense, but if you can't win with Patrick in college, I'm sorry, man. Like, that's going to be a huge knock for me personally.
Eric Bieniemy's offenses in Washington and UCLA were not good. I'm just saying that if you want to do a schematic based evaluation, you're putting more weight in Cliff Kingsbury's Texas Tech defense than anything we've seen Eric Bieniemy do on his own. Again, I think the Bieniemy hire is fine if what you decided was that you wanted to hire Eric Bieniemy. I just don't think that. I don't think you can say that Cliff running too many RPOs and that he'd just fall into those same mistakes. His offense, I'll just leave it at that. Cliff Kingsbury's offense is further away from Andy Reid's offense than Eric Bieniemy's offense is.
Yeah. Again, I'm whelmed by this. Overwhelmed would have been Nathan Shieldhouse or Mike McDaniel, but this is, again, a hire that I am, again, my particular opinion, I'm cool with. Chiefs fans can feel all they want. Some people will be thrilled. Some are going to be absolutely bummed. We will find out. We'll see games being played, and we'll see if this team looks better offensively next year. I do want to talk about Chad O'Shea. That's the wide receiver coach. Yeah. The new wide receiver coach for KC after Connor Embry was let go. I think this one's intriguing. They went the complete opposite way. This is not I don't want to say up-and-comer, but a guy who's 53. He's been coaching in the
He's
NFL.
A professional wide receivers coach.
Since 2003 in the NFL. This is almost they're like, we hear you. We're doing the opposite of Connor Embry. We're going to get a guy who's been doing this in the NFL for 20-plus years. My initial thought was awesome. I'm all the way in. What is your initial thought on Chad O'Shea?
The initial thought was excellent. A professional wide receivers coach. Like that really, like, not even to make it super oversimplified, but I think when you have an issue where a very young, inexperienced coach is leading a very young, inexperienced wide receiver room, and they do not advance or develop over the time that coach is in charge of that room, you got to move on from Connor Embry. And I think a good pivot to make is someone who has been coaching, to your point, has been coaching wide receivers at a professional level for 2 decades plus. I think that makes a ton of sense from a philosophical, who are you looking for kind of addition. And I hope they do something similar for running backs. Ultimately, I don't know what Bieniemy's role in that will be. I'd let Eric Bieniemy pick the running backs coach, just sight unseen. I would absolutely trust him to do that. I don't think that'll happen, but just like I do trust Bieniemy with running backs, maybe he'll be hands-on there in a way that changes that, whatever. The 2 other little like blips on the radar for O'Shea is one that apparently a lot of Browns fans and like people who cover the Browns did not think highly of him, to the point that they're glad to be rid of him. And then on the other side of the coin, not a ton of stories of like incredible wide receiver development, but I think Jerry Jeudy in Cleveland is probably the biggest feather in his cap. And then Julian Edelman's talked about him a good amount, and it seems like talked about him positively. I've seen a couple little bits of those clips, but I didn't see like that whole podcast that he did or whatever. So like the resume is exactly what you want. The developmental record, I guess, is questionable, but I couldn't tell you that there's a long list of Browns wide receiver flameouts who should have been much, much better than they were. And I think that the fan reaction is just like an interesting data point. But if I didn't know that Browns fans were sick of him, I would just be giving you 2 big thumbs up right now and saying that this is what I'd like to see more of. If it is going to be obviously Andy Reid's offense and Eric Bieniemy is the number 2, then let's get, and again, Pinkston and Embry were the 2 guys that I just think couldn't come back just by the performance of their rooms over the last couple of years. But just bring in whoever you got, bring in guys who have taught NFL players with an NFL attention to detail and an NFL curriculum, for lack of a better term, and a voice that can really be authoritative on some things. And it seems like Chad O'Shea should be able to do that.
I will also point out he's been a part of 3 Super Bowl winning teams. And I think that matters.
Yeah.
I think that matters when you're with a younger group. And by the way, when it comes to Cleveland, I always take anything from there with a grain of salt.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know your thoughts on Kevin Stefanski. I don't have great thoughts necessarily on Stefanski, but clearly the NFL did because they hired him immediately. I mean, that was an immediate hiring of Kevin. So clearly the NFL values him. They basically all said, yeah, that's a Cleveland issue, not a Stefanski issue, right?
I agree. Yep.
So you can maybe chalk some of the Chad O'Shea Browns fans' issues with the fact that it's the bleeping Browns.
And I'll just real quick, little pin in that. Him working with Stefanski for that period of time is a plus in my book. It is a different offense, and it is a different offensive mind who I respect.
And so when it comes to having 3 rings, it's not necessarily me trying to say it's fair for Connor Embry, but it's hard to go to guys who are some close to your age and you're sitting here like, hey, man, I want you to do this, attention to details. And it's like, dude, I'm not, what do you, why? Why am I listening to you? I'm not saying players should do that. I think that's dumb for the players. But we have to also realize sometimes players do dumb things. I think we've seen that. So, especially some of the wide receivers. So
name 5.
And so when you have a guy with 20 plus years of NFL experience, you have a guy who's won 3 rings with a different organization with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, Randy Moss, Edelman, all these guys, you can sit here and go, hey man, yeah, you don't have to listen to me, but what do I know? Was it Dick Vermeil or who used to do that and put it on the table to prove a point of like, yeah, sure, you know more than me, guy. And
I do remember Les Miles doing that at KU in his press conference. That image, I know you're not thinking of Les Miles.
I'm not.
But I do remember him. It was an introductory press conference. I went out there to Lawrence, I think, to cover that. I think that was what it was. I remember his ring, just as he's gripping the podium, he's got a big old championship ring right there, knocking it on the microphone to remind you who he is. And I don't think that's the equivalent here. It's just something that a memory I hadn't thought of in years.
But if we are being honest, I think it can't hurt to have a guy with championship experience with an organization like New England who's been been a coach in the NFL for 20 plus years, and maybe you have some guys that need a little whether it's tough love or some of that veteran leadership. I think it's easier to hear it from a guy like Chad O'Shea who's done it versus his first real gig in the NFL in Connor Embry. I think that is a valid point in my opinion.
I 100% agree. Look, and the rings, and if you won that Super Bowl or not, shouldn't really matter, right? Like, to your point, it kind of does, but it shouldn't. But there is just something about saying, like, I've been there and I've done that. And if you don't think that, if you think I did that by total accident, you're eligible to believe that, and I'll find somebody else who's more interested in taking this seriously. But the other thing that for me is, again, the literal shine of the Super Bowl ring is a good stand-in here. But I think the thing about it that's a bigger deal for me is that he's been doing this at the NFL level, again, for like 20 years. That's harder to do than win a Super Bowl. If you said you have to do one of these things in your lifetime, you have to get a Super Bowl ring, or you have to be an NFL position coach for 2 decades. There's a little time as an assistant and stuff here and there. But I think that's the thing that he can point at is just like, look, man, I've just been doing this. This is my first training camp in St. Joseph, Missouri, but it's not my first training camp. And I hope, and I don't know, maybe this is in some way reflective of the kind of thing that I value in other people or whatever, but like, if he was who is your number one choice for Chiefs offensive coordinator again?
Nathan Schillhouse.
Is he 35?
He's a young dude.
If you're Nathan Schillhouse and you show up, you can be a young guy. Can you control the room? Can you lead the room? Can you be an authoritative voice? I think for Schillhouse, the answer is yes. For O'Shea, it's not that he's in his 50s as opposed to being in his 30s. It's that he has done this long and often enough that I have to imagine he's a good voice in the meeting room. That I have to imagine that there's no doubt about that he has earned that spot, because in the NFL, you have to earn that time and time again.
Yeah. Either way, I think overall my main takeaway is I think I'm more on the excited side than anything else. Even you couple Bieniemy and Chad O'Shea together, 8 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10, pretty excited. Like, I don't know how you want to do a grade, but this is the accountability that we talked about, a veteran in the wide receiver room that can hopefully help with Rice, Worthy, and then eventually Jalen Royals. I think we're going to see, and I thought this past year, and we clearly did not see it, a revamped offense. Like, you're going to have to, and this is a lot of pressure on Andy Reid, but if there's a head coach that deserves some benefit, I think it's Andy Reid. I don't understand, and I see this way too often on Twitter. You can fan how you want to fan. Again, I try my best to say that. Everyone has their own opinions. Some are right, some are wrong. But everyone has their own opinion.
Have those same issues of telling you how to be a fan. I'll totally do it. Just ask me.
But I think it's silly when people have been lumping. I think it's actually ridiculous. I think it's absurd, and I've actually gotten angry. Like, personally, I'm not going to tweet about it, but like,
good, smart
people that lump. Well, look, the Bills fired McDermott. Look, the Ravens fired Harbaugh. Look, the Steelers fired Tomlin. See, the Chiefs just sitting on their hands. And I'm sitting here going, yeah, but what's the thing that the Chiefs and Andy have versus the other, coaches? Multiple rings.
They've won the games.
Maybe like 5 Super Bowls in 6 years and, 3 Super Bowls and, 3 in a row. Technically, it's still 3 in a row. Technically. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing here?
Our memories are very short. Our patience is very thin, and our days move very slowly when you're not looking ahead to a Super Bowl.
And our ankle is broken. And this was a fun show. I appreciate everyone hanging out with us. Again, Bieniemy is now the OC. Chad O'Shea is the wide receiver coach. My left ankle is broken doing laundry. It is a dangerous thing to do, y'all. Laundry. Be safe out there. Watch your step/steps. I appreciate everyone hanging out with us. Give us a like, 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. Go to Goldbelly. I do recommend it. It's a lot of fun, especially if you break your ankle and can't really walk very well. They deliver it to your door, and that is very, very, very nice. Brisco, you can listen to him in about 45 minutes or so on
Call it an hour.
Call it an hour
yeah,
on Only Weird Games. Brisco, enjoy your little hour-long break there, buddy.
Thank you. I'm going to pull up a list of podiatrists in the area, and I'm going to send you my 5 favorites.
Shockingly, it's like an OC job. Like, I'm gonna call them all and be like, hey,
power rank them.
So what can you do for me? By the way, I think I actually got a call from the doctor during this thing. I got a voicemail, so I'm excited to see what they say. It's gonna be something along the lines of, "Don't ever take a step again, or you're never gonna walk." Can't wait to find out what they left for me. Ooh, that's a teaser, but not a fun one. Until next time, I'll be back with Adam Best tomorrow for Wacky Wednesday. For Brisco, I am Sterling Holmes. Appreciate it. We are out.